بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear students of Organizational Behavior course, today inshallah we will continue chapter 4, personality factors. At the previous lecture we start to define what do we mean by personality and the way it is measured and the factors that shape it. Also, we talked about some tools used to assess the personality, such as the Myers-Briggs type indicator and the Big Five trait model. Also, we talked about some traits such as core self-evaluation, self-monitoring, proactive personality contribute to understanding the personality of individuals. And today inshallah we will continue chapter 4 talking about personality. Then we will start with the next part of this chapter, which talked about values. So personality and situations. Earlier we discussed how research shows heredity is more important than environment in developing our personalities. Okay, so we said that both the heredity and the environmental factor shaped our personality, but we can say that the heredity is more important than the environmental factors in shaping and developing our personality. The environment is not irrelevant, though some personality traits such as Big Five tend to be effective in almost any environment or situation. However, we are learning that the effect of particular trait on behavior depends on the situation. Okay, so we wanna to discuss two theoretical framework, which is the situation strength and the trait activation, which was helped to explain how it works. So again, we said that the behaviors depends on the situations, and the behaviors, it is a result of our personality and other individual dynamics. So for that reason we have to discuss some theories related to the situations which is affect our behavior or which is reflect our personality, such as the situation strength theory and the trait activation theory. So let's start with the first theory, which is situation strength theory. Okay, so what is the main idea of this theory, situation strength theory? It proposes that the way personality translates into behavior, it depends on the strength of the situation. So we are reacting and behaving according to the strength of the situation. By situation strength, we mean the degree to which norms, cues, standards dictate appropriate behavior. So strong situations show us what the right behavior is, pressure us to exhibit it, and discourage the wrong behavior. So we can say that the situation force us to behave in a certain way. Okay, فبالتالي يعني النظرية هذه بتحكي إنه في عندي بعض المنبهات، بعض القوى البيئية الخارجية، بعض الأمور زي الرولز، الريجوليشنز، النورمز، الكيوز، الستاندردز، سماها بالموقف القوي أو بقوة الموقف. قد يؤدي هذا يعني قوة الموقف إلى ضغط على الفرد، إما حينخرط في العمل ويستجيب له، أو إنه يمتنع عن السلوكيات معينة. وعلى الرغم من أنه بقول لي الأشخاص لهم كل شخص البرسوناليتي الخاصة فيه والتريتس الخاص اللي بتشكل البرسوناليتي تبعته، إلا أنه الأفراد ناتج عن يعني قوة هذا الموقف حيتصرفوا بطريقة معينة حسب الرولز، حسب الريجوليشنز، حسب النورمز والكيوز. Okay. So strong situations show us what the right behavior is, pressure us to exhibit it, and discourage the wrong behavior. Personality traits better to predict behavior in weak situations than in strong ones. بمعنى انه في السترونج situations اللي حيلعب دور في اللي هو exhibit the behavior هو حيكون السيتويشن نفسه هو اللي حيلعب دور في إظهار وإبراز هذا البيهيفير. اوكي، ولكن في الويك situations ما فيش عندي خلينا نحكي rules regulations معينة، فبالتالي البيهيفير في الويك situations يعني يكون ناتج عن البيرسوناليتي تريتس الخاصة بالشخص. Okay, so again situations will force us to behave in a certain way, while in the weak situations the personality traits play a major role in representing the behaviors. What are the components of situation strength? In any organization, the situation strength include four main elements. The first one is clarity. And what do we mean by clarity? It is the degree to which the work duties and responsibilities or the tasks are more available, clear and obvious. So we can say that the job with high clarity or high inequality produces strong situation because individuals can readily determine what to do. So we can say that if the job have a clear duties and responsibilities, the tasks is very obvious for everyone, so this is a strong situation. Why? Because the individuals already know what to do, what to be done and how it can be done. Okay, the second element is the consistency. And what do we mean by consistency? It is the compatibility among the duties and responsibility, or to what extent the cues regarding work duties and responsibilities are compatible with one another. So we can say that the job with high consistency, it is also represent a strong situations because all the cues point toward the same desired behavior. So the job with high consistency of the cues regarding the work duties and responsibilities, it is represent a strong situation. Why? Because all of the cues point toward the same desired behavior. The third one is the constraints. And what do we mean by constraints? Any forces outside the employee's control, whether from the surrounding environment or what else, it is called a constraints, and it is represent a strong situation. Okay, so the extent to which individuals' freedom to decide or act is limited by forces outside their control, the job with many constraints represents a strong situation because the individual has limited discretion. Okay, فبالتالي إذا الجوب مليء بالقيود، فهذه القيود أكيد حتمثل موقف ضغط على الموظفين كيف أنهم يتعاملوا ويتأقلموا مع هذا الموقف بناء على هذا القيد الموجه لهم، سواء كانت طبعا من البيئة الخارجية أو من أي مكان آخر، المهم أن يكون خارج سيطرة وتحكم هذا الموظف. فبالتالي مش حيتبع البرسوناليتي تبعته أو any individual dynamics، إنما حيكون في عندي strong situation، فبالتالي هو اللي حيوجه البيهيفير تبعه. The fourth one is consequences. It is the degree to which decisions or actions have important implication for the organization or its member, such as clients, customers, suppliers, government, and so on. فبالتالي إذا كان القرار اللي أنا بدي أخده كتير مهم بالنسبة للمنظمة، حيأثر عليها بشكل كبير أو على أي فرد من ذوي المصلحة اللي هم الستيك هولدرز المرتبطين مصلحتهم بمصلحة المنظمة زي الكاستمرز والسبلايرز and so on. فبالتالي أنا هان في موقف بسميه strong situation. Why? Because the environment is probably heavily structured to guard against mistake. Okay, this is the components of strong situation. We can say that the organization itself, it can be defined as a strong situation. Why? Because it is impose rules, regulations, norms, and the standards that govern the employees' behavior. The elements of situational strength are often determined by organizational rule and guidelines. which adds some objectivity to them. However, the perception of these rules influences how the person will respond to the situation's strength. Okay, فبالتالي perceptions تبع الامبلويز مدى إدراكه لهذه القوانين والقواعد هي اللي حتأثر على يعني كيف حتكون ردة فعل الشخص وكيف حيكون البيهيفير لاتجاه هذا strong situation. Okay. Creating strong rules to govern diverse system might be not only difficult but also unwise. As you know that any organization يعني فيها diversity whether in race, gender or religious and so on. فبالتالي إذا إحنا بدنا نحط strong rules على أساس إنها تعمل يعني تحكم في الدايفرس سيستم فهذا حيكون مش بس صعب إنما كمان في نوع من يعني البالانس. Okay. فبالتالي إيش ممكن يعمل المانجرز؟ The managers need to recognize the role of situation strength in the workplace and find the appropriate balance. يعني إحنا مش هنقول إنه ما هنحط rules و regulations مش هنعمل systematic way for performed tasks and responsibilities وإنما بدنا نعمل نوع من البالانس إنه أنا في عندي diversity في عندي شخصيات مختلفة individual differences personalities attitudes مختلفة وأيضا في عندي حاجة بسميها strong situation فأنا بدي أحاول إنه يكون في عندي نوع من البالانس. Okay. Another theory, it is a trait activation theory. Another important theoretical framework toward understanding the personality and situation, it is the TAT, the trait activation theory. What is the main idea of this theory? It predicts that some situations, events, or interventions activate a trait more than others. يقول لي إنه الإنسان عندما يتعرض إلى موقف هو فعليا البرسوناليتي تبعه فيها باكج اوف تريتس ولكن في عندي بعض التريتس حتكون ظاهرة بقوة أكثر من غيرها. طيب how can this theory benefit the organization? We can use it to foresee or predict which job suitable or suit certain personality. ممكن من خلالها أعرف إيش الشخصية المناسبة لكل وظيفة حتى طبعا يتم إنجازها بالشكل المطلوب. The trait activation theory also applies to personality tendencies. For example, a recent study found people learning online responded differently when their behavior was electronically monitored. Those who had a high fear of failure had higher apprehension from the monitoring than others and consequently learned significantly less. In this case, a feature of the environment which is an electronic monitoring activate the trait which is a fear of failing, and the combination of the two meant lowered job performance. فبالتالي في عندي الأشخاص اللي هم يعني عندهم نوع من الخوف من الفشل كمان بيخافوا من عملية اللي هي الرقابة على أعمالهم فإذا إحنا بدنا نوجههم نحو الشغل الإلكتروني أو حتى فكرة التعليم الإلكتروني فبالتالي إذا كان في عندي نوع من الإلكترونيك مونيتورينج في هذا الحال هيصير في عندي activation للتريت اللي هو الفير اوف فيلينج بشكل أكبر لأنه فعليا هم عندهم خوف من الفشل وخوف كمان يعني من المونيتورينج ف both of them هيؤدي إلى lowering job performance. Trait activation theory can also work in a positive way. One study found that in a supportive environment everyone behaved pro-socially, but in a harsh environment only people with pro-social tendencies exhibited them. من وجهة نظر أخرى بقول لي هذا النظرية بتحكي كمان إنه أي شخص بشكل عام ممكن يتعامل في يعني بشكل اجتماعي إذا كان في عندي supportive environment. ولكن إذا كانت البيئة فيها نوع من الconstraints، فيها نوع من القسوة، فيها نوع من الأشخاص يعني اللي بيضايقوا بيخنقوا على العمل، في هذه الحالة فقط وفقط اللي هم الناس اللي برو سوشيال تندنسز هم اللي ممكن يعني يقدروا يتفاعلوا معها. فمن هذه النقطة بدأت المنظمات تستفيد منها إنه مثلا في للهارش انفايرمنتس ايش البرسوناليتيز المناسبة وايش التريتس المناسبة لإنجاز هذه الأعمال، وبحددوا اللي هو the jobs suit for certain personality. معطيني هنا مجموعة من الأعمال على سبيل المثال. في الجروب اللي فوق عندي على سبيل المثال الأكاونتنتس المحاسبين، يفترض انه يكون في عندهم طبعا السكورينج هاي، ديتيل اورينتيشن ريكوايرد. مثلا عندنا الفاينانشال مانجمنت، المانجرز يفترض يكون عندهم كومبتيتيف ورك تكون نوعا ما عاليه. على العكس الاشخاص اللي بيعملوا في نيوكلير رياكتور اوبريتور مش محتاجين للكومبتيتيفنس. او مثلا السوشيال انجينير social skills it is not required for them. تمام. فمجموع الجوبس الموجودة في الجروب الأول يفترض يكون في عندها high scoring for those criteria، ولكن الجروب الثانية بكون في عندهم السكورينج low. اوكي طيب بعد هيك حكالي انه الجروبس اللي احنا ذكرناهم with scoring high يفترض المجموعة من التريتس تكون موجودة عندهم بشكل عالي أو بشكل منخفض. فعلى سبيل المثال بيحكي لي مثلا هنا الأكتورز اللي هو طبعا لازم يكون في عنده نوع من innovation. اوكي على عكس طبعا الميديكال أو تكنيكال الأوبنس لازم يكون عنده عالي اللي هو الأكتورز. اوكي مثلا عندنا التيلي ماركتر dealing with angry people لازم تكون عنده هذا القدرة. لازم يكون في عنده حاجة اللي هي زي الاكسترافيرجنز، الاجريبلنس تكون كمان أيضا مرتفعة. فمن خلال يعني هذه الاكزامبلز ومن خلال هذه النظرية المنظمات مرة ثانية بتستفيد منها ل determining the best personalities for specific job. Okay. طيب the next part of this chapter it is talking about values. So let's start to define. So what is values? Values are often very specific and describe belief systems rather than behavioral tendencies. So our belief in that thing, which whether it is right or wrong, good or bad, this is called values. Okay, and some beliefs or values reflect persons personality, some of it, but we don't always act consistently with our values. Why? This is according to the situation, and there is something called the value system where many values that we believed in ranked in a hierarchy, some of it on the top of this value system, which is very important for us, and the other is at the bottom level of value system, which is not important for us. Okay, so يعني we don't act always consistently with our values. Okay, so how we can define values? Values, it is a beliefs or principles that shape our behavior, or it is a judgmental tool which is represent whether to do something or not, whether it is right or wrong, good or bad, and of course it is guide our behavior. Okay, so values contain judgmental elements because they carry an individual's idea about what is right, good or desirable. They have both content and intensity attributes. Okay, so the values include both content and intensity attributes. The content attribute say a mode of conduct or end state. What do you mean by end state? It means the final shape of the behavior. Okay, so again the content attribute it is represent the final shape of our behavior. while the intensity attributes it is specifies how important it is, or in another way it is represent the ability or our capability to do so or such behavior, whether it is important or not, whether we have the ability or capability to do it or to behave in a certain way. This is an intensity attribute. When we rank values in terms of intensity, we obtain something called value system. Okay, so if we rank the values according to its importance, some of those values is very important than the others. So those ranking or this hierarchy of values is called a value system. Okay, so we all have hierarchy of values according to the relative importance we assign to values, such as freedom, pleasure, self-respect, honesty, obedience, and equality. Values tend to be relatively stable and enduring. Okay, so it is unlike the attitudes or other individual dynamics. It is more stable than it, and also it is continuing, and it is very difficult to be changed. It is changed, but it does take more time to be changed. Okay, values lay the foundation for understanding attitudes and motivation, and they influence our perception. Okay, again, to ask a question about the value system. What is the value system? It is a system which is ranked the values according to its importance. At the top of this system, we have the value which is more stable and constant and difficult to be changed, and we committed to those values, while the values in a low hierarchy less important and more changeable than the others. Okay, but in general we can say that values more stable and constant as compared to personality or attitudes. So what is the role of value system? The value which is at the top of the hierarchy, it is more stable, constant, and it is very difficult to be changed, and we commit to those values, while the values at a low hierarchy or at the bottom of the hierarchy, it is less important and more changeable. But in general we can say that values are more stable and constant as compared to personality or attitudes or any individual dynamics. And if we ask why values are more constant than individual dynamics, the first reason is the values represent principles that we believed in, so it is very difficult to be changed easily. The second reason, the duration for developing the values more than other individual dynamics, so again it is very difficult to be changed. So we can say that all individual dynamics are changed, but some of it is easier to be changed than others. Okay, is there any relationship between values and other individual dynamics? Of course, there is a direct relationship between values and other individual dynamics. Values play a major role in understanding, interpreting, but not shaping the attitudes and motivation. So again, values help us to interpret, understand the attitudes or the motivations of employees or individuals. Why? The values help us to judge, because it is a judgmental tool, whether something right or wrong, good or bad, so it helps us to judge the right or wrong attitude. Okay, also it influences our perception. Again حكينا انه الvalues it is a judgmental tool، فبالتالي هي بتساعدنا على معرفة ايش الصح وايش الخطأ، ايش المرغوب فيه او غير المرغوب فيه، وبالتالي بتتكون عنا المعلومات اللي هي اللي بتكون عنا الادراك. حول هذه المعلومات اللي هي الصحيحة أو الخاطئة. عشان هيك أحيانا بنقول في حاجة اسمها selective perceptions اللي هي الانتقاء الإدراكي. والانتقاء الإدراكي بمعنى أنه مش كل المعلومات اللي بتعبر أمامنا أو كل المثيرات ممكن أنه أنا أخزنها أو أنتبه إلها، لا، في عندي البعض منها بكون أنا معنية فيها، قد تكون يعني بتأثر فيها أو شدت انتباهي، أنا بأخذها بعين الاعتبار. okay. فبالتالي again we can say that the values play a major role in understanding attitudes and motivation, but not to shape it, and they influence our perception. While values can sometimes augment decision making, at times they can code objectivity and rationality. Okay, we have two categories or two types of values: the terminal and instrumental values. Okay, so some researchers argue that we can separate them into two categories اللي هي values. The first one is the terminal value, which is referred to desirable end state. What do you mean by the end state? It is the final shape of the behavior. There are the goals a person would like to achieve during lifetime. The other set is called instrumental value. It means a mechanism or a means that we use to achieve the terminal values. So the instrumental values, it is referred to preferable mode of behavior or means or a mechanism of achieving the terminal values. Each of us places value on both the end اللي هي the terminal values and the means which is represent the instrumental values. So again, the terminal values, it is a long-term values that affect our behavior in a long term, and it is more important for us. It is represent the goals or the results that the persons would like to be achieved during a lifetime, while the instrumental values, it is represent a means or a mechanism that we use to achieve those terminal values. Okay. A balance between terminal and instrumental values is important, as well as an understanding how to strike this balance. Okay.